I'm finally using my second monitor to read Higurashi. Or something like that. So yeah, I'll be doing that. And then, what else will I be doing? Is there anything I should do? Oh! The original sprite, of course. I almost forgot how I used to do these things. Okay. Wait, I have to check my volume. Checking, checking. Ah! Ah! Alright, let's start. Wow, this is different. Whoa. Hold on. This is different. This is a lot more different. Higurashi when they cry outbreak. Keiichi and the others face a brand new tragedy. The mysterious virus and the panic it creates are such laughable sights. The difficulty is average. Is it the beginning or the end? Or has it already reached its conclusion? It's your job to bear witness to that. I love this song. Okay, hold on. What the heck? Oh. Okay. This scenario is currently locked. Unlock it by clearing outbreak. Oh, okay. Hinamizawa bus stop. Higurashi when they cry origin. Welcome to Hinamizawa. This is a slightly unusual fragment. The original fragment which eventually grow into Higurashi when they cry. The difficulty is Genesis. It all started from here. Let's go to this one first then. After all. Higurashi when they cry outbreak. Keiichi and the others face a brand new tragedy. The mysterious virus and the panic it creates are such laughable sights. The difficulty is average. This is the beginning of the end, whereas it already reached its conclusion. It is your job to bear witness to that. June 27th, Monday, day 1. This is Japan Self-Defense Force. Oh wait, hold on. There's something I don't like about... There's something I don't like about how I'm displaying. I'm gonna change that. It's a little too big. It's covering the text, which is making me unhappy. No! I don't want it to be like that. Don't cover the text of my precious Higurashi no naku koro ni. Over there. No, don't even partially cover up the letters. Stay out of this, you monster. Oh my god. I'm gonna do this. Shrink. There we go. That's not so big. Okay. Much better. Okay. This is the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. As of today, we have quarantined the Hinamizawa region and the other surrounding regions as designated by the Prefectural Governor. We ask that all residents of these areas please remain indoors and await further instructions. Please use your televisions, radios, and the disaster management radio system to stay informed. You will not be permitted to leave this district until we can confirm that it's medically safe to do so. We repeat, you will not be permitted to leave this district. Any who do not comply will be dealt with according to national law. So everyone, we must ask that you please return to your homes and remain calm. It was really hard to hear that rough voice over the roar of their camouflage helicopter. Having discovered the outbreak of a previously unknown virus, this virus has been classified as one of the most hazardous viruses by the World Health Organization. Several government sources have already confirmed an offer from the American government to provide emergency assistance in developing a vaccine. We believe our government has already begun preparations to accept their aid. This virus has an incubation period stretching 30 to 50 days. They're scrambling to secure enough vaccine for the 2,000 quarantined residents. At the present time, all phone lines to Hinamizawa District are flooded, and reaching anyone within is nearly impossible. The current congestion is making it difficult for the prefecture's Disaster Prevention Center to ascertain the exact situation. Furthermore, a ban on tap water and well water has been put on place. Please do not consume any water except that provided by the SDF's water trucks. In addition, illegally parking on any roads will hinder the disaster relief efforts. Please relocate your vehicles at once. Representative Unabara of the Democratic Socialist Party has criticized the avoidance of proper procedures in order of the dispatching of the SDF disaster relief, strongly voicing his opinion that this is a step backward toward militarism, which could lead to further isolation of our nation within the Asian political community. This is the XX Prefecture Disaster Prevention Center. At 12 today, we shall conduct simultaneous... I'm sorry, I'm not used to reading things like this. This is the XX Prefecture Disaster Prevention Center. At 12 today, we shall conduct simultaneous medical examinations in the following locations. Please follow the instructions of your town or neighborhood council as you assemble there. Please make certain that you get examined unless you have extenuating circumstances. Extenuating circumstances. Can you try that again? Meow. Okay. Please make certain that you get examined unless you have extenuating circumstances. If you notice any symptoms of illness, you must. This is the I don't know how to say that. It's too hard. Ew, I hate abbreviations. Let's try again. My bad. Okay. This is the I'm sorry, I suck at abbreviations. Let's try again. This is the JGSDF. By order of your professional governor, this region has been quarantined to prevent the further spread of disease. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. We promise to secure food, water, and other daily necessities, electricity, and communication systems for everyone. Please continue to remain calm. All of a sudden, one day, the peaceful boredom of everyday life was shattered. I doubt anyone woke up today expecting to be any different from the ordinary early summer morning. The sky was just as blue as ever, and the sun rose just as it always did. Yet the helicopters flying at low altitudes with their speakers blaring, and the sight of traffic backed up at the blockade on the main road into the city was enough to let everyone know that this morning was anything but normal. By the time it was broadcast on the morning news, the confusion had already settled down to a degree. The residents of Hinamizawa couldn't act like this was all happening from some distant city as they listened to the emergency broadcasts, because there was no doubt that this emergency was happening in every town we lived in. I stirred restlessly in my bed like I usually did before eventually crawling out, and once I came down to our dining room, I found my parents glued to the television, which is where I learned the news peeking over their shoulders. I wonder just how many villagers muttered the same thing I did at first. What? What's going on? Keiichi, it's awful. Listen, they've discovered a horrible disease here in Hinamizawa, and they quarantined the whole village. This is terrible. When do you think they're gonna let us go? I need to head out for a meeting tomorrow for an event in Osaka. Quarantine? Then we can't go into town either? Looks like it. They said they'll provide food, but this is a real pain. We barely have anything in our refrigerator since today's when they had that special sale down in Okinomiya. More importantly, what is this virus anyway? It's pretty dangerous. They have quarantined the whole region, right? What's going on here? Are we infected too? Shh! They're explaining it on the TV right now! Once the initial signs appear, the following symptoms develop over the following week. Our entire family, no, I'm sure everyone in the village went speechless at the footage played. A small African village was completely annihilated. The terrible spectacle was almost too gory to look at. Given the unrecognizable state of the resulting corpses, the people out of this dangerous reach were being irresponsible in satisfying their urge to spectate watching this footage of the harm dealt by the mysterious, heretofore unknown virus. But for those of us directly faced with this crisis, it was far too real and far too terrifying. I suddenly glanced up at the clock and saw that it was long past the time for me to meet up with Rena, and I was really late. Normally, Rena would come to pick me up directly if it was over 5 minutes past our meeting time, but that didn't happen this morning. Of course not. I'm sure Rena's also glued to the TV along with her family right now. Either that or maybe she's currently infected with this mysterious virus and is suffering under its symptoms. The moment that thought reached my mind, I started not worrying just about her, but Mio and Sadako and Rika as well. I ran out for our telephone in the hall with an impulse and tried dialing a number, but I didn't even hear the usual dial tone. It made sense. The whole village and the population of those outside with relatives in the area probably went for the receivers all at once just as I had. It was reasonable to assume the phone lines couldn't keep up. That left me wanting to visit them to make sure of their safety in person. But the whole village could be full of pockets of that dangerous virus. Wouldn't it be a death wish to barge outdoors in that case? Keiichi, come here, quickly! My dad was just coming out of his atelier. His arms were full of cardboard boxes. From what I could see, they were packed full of duct tape wrapped in unopened vinyl bags. Apparently, my dad had them in stock to use with his paintings or something. I didn't even question why he grabbed duct tape in this emergency. I understood immediately why my dad was calling for me to help. Keiichi, you cover the second floor. Shut the windows tight and seal them up with duct tape. Our air conditioner might be connected to the outside too. Cover the AC vents with newspaper and seal them up with duct tape. I'll cover the first floor. Your mom can cover the kitchen. Dear, it's too late for any of that. Duct tape won't do anything to keep microorganisms out. It'll still make a small difference. Just help already! My dad's tone made it clear he wasn't going to suffer any objections, but my mom was right. She was being relatively calm given the situation. Viruses are tiny organisms smaller even than dust, so it's pretty delusional to think that sealing up openings with store-bought duct tape could keep them out. At the same time, I understood how my dad was feeling too. It was just so sudden. Even if there was no scientific backing to his beliefs, even though it wouldn't make any difference, he still had to try to do something to stop it. That would comfort his mind far more than just sitting in front of the television. Whenever my mom, oddly stubborn, and my dad, wildly emotional, start arguing like that, I go up to the second floor to avoid them. My mom was right. I knew we couldn't really do anything to prevent infection, but I shared my dad's desire to do something about it, even if it was just for my own peace of mind. I looked out the window. The grand sight before me was a view I took pride in, one that moved me deeply when I first arrived here. The magnificent scenery itself was the same view as always of Hinamizawa's beautiful traditional buildings, yet today there was no sight of any villagers. I couldn't spot a single villager out working in the paddy fields. I was certain that the stubborn old farmers wouldn't ditch their work even today, but even that silly hope of mine was shattered. To be honest, that made me realize I was hoping to find solace in the sight of them carrying on like normal. Even the most stubborn of the village elders weren't out working their fields. Maybe they were afraid of getting infected with the virus, or maybe they were afraid of another villager thinking they were infected instead. In that sense, my dad's amateur idea of trying to keep the virus out with duct tape might be the more normal response, instead of questioning its effectiveness like my mom was doing. The village was shrouded in a silent fear. The only sound to be heard were the voices over the disaster management radios and the roar of the SDF's helicopters. Those sounds only served to make the silence more chilling. Normally, the chorus of the cicadas would start around this time, but their chorus didn't reach the villagers' ears. Okay. With the water supply shut off, we couldn't use our flush toilet. The SDF relief squad had set up portable bathrooms, but since my dad was strongly opposed to using them, the Maibara family continued to use our flush toilets without any running water. We had kept our bath water to use for laundry, so we were managing by scooping that into the basin and flushing it away. According to my dad, the excrement of disease carriers would just be full of viruses, so he refused to let our family go out and use the public bathrooms, saying that it was the same as going out to get ourselves infected. We didn't have that much water left in our bathtub, though, so we couldn't keep using a flush toilet without water forever. To make matters worse, since the virus involved here has a 1-month incubation period, it wasn't hard to imagine quarantine around Hinamizawa would last even longer than that. By my mom's quick estimate, the quarantine was likely to last 3 months. 3 whole months. It was the end of June, so the quarantine wouldn't be lifted until the end of September, or maybe even October. That meant the whole summer of 1983 was going to be cut away from Hinamizawa. It was very tragic for us. On the first day, we were caught up in the fear that the virus was everywhere outside of our house. But then the water trucks and relief supplies arrived thanks to the SCF. And once their doctors started their group examinations, we couldn't afford to stay completely shut inside any longer. Some people like my dad still refused to go outside even then, but they steadily started coming outside over time, both to secure necessities and assage. How the heck do I say that word? Assage? Osage? Help. Both to secure necessities and assuage their fear of infection by having the doctors examine them. The same went for me. I couldn't stand staying cooped up in our creepy house with its duct tape shutters, silently watching the television with no one but our family around. I was much more anxious to go outside and check on my friends' well-being. My dad continued to be stubborn about holding in the house, so my exasperated mom and I went to the group examinations together. The town council our family fell under had decided to conduct examinations in the schoolyard. Lots of villagers had gathered there, and we were all lined up according to the division used for the council's newsletters. The disparity between the villagers in their normal clothes and the doctors covered head to toe in a raincoat-like suit was very unsettling. It was a clear evidence that they suspected us of all being carriers of the virus. Ah! Keiichi! Oh, Rena! Thank goodness you're safe!
Yeah! I just ran into Mi-chan! She was looking healthy, too!
Really? What about Sadako and Rika?
They're in a different division, so I think they had to go somewhere else. I tried calling them a few times, but I can't get through.
I tried calling several times too, but I had no luck at all. Guess the phone lines are just too congested to handle it.
I heard a rumor that there was someone in the car who wouldn't listen to the SDF's directions, so they had an accident and crashed into the telephone pole, cutting the lines out completely. But another person said the government had switched them over to authorized use only, so the average citizen can't use them right now.
Long story short, everyone's confused and the information's all mixed up, huh? Right after I said that, someone smacked me hard in the back. It was Mion. Kei-chan! Great to see you're safe! That's my line! I'm glad to see you safe too. Mio made a big show of wiping her tears away, enjoying our reunion after only a scant few days. There's no need to explain at this point, I think. But the old customs here meant Hinamizawa was governed by 3 ancient clans known as the 3 families. Right now, Mion's family, the Sonozaki family, was the head of that organization. According to Mion, the Sonozaki family was already taking initiative, leading the unified town council to try and settle the whole situation. They were also working together with the government and the SDF, so they had the information that regular villagers didn't know about. Mion, be blunt with us. What's going on? Has this virus really infected all the villagers? According to this morning's explanation, the likelihood of that is pretty slim. From what they've said, the infection showed up over in Takasudo, and hardly anyone lives over there. Since the quarantine was set up so quick, they're saying they don't think it's reaching Hinamizawa's area yet. Once they confirm everyone in Hinamizawa is clean, Then they're hopeful that they can start lifting up the quarantine in stages.
I hope that's true. I feel bad for those living in Takasudo, but it'd be nice if Hinamizawa's quarantine ends sooner.
That was when Mion gave us a sharp look. As she grabbed my head and ran us, pulling us in close to her own. She whispered so quietly that only we could hear. But I don't think we can be that optimistic, actually. I'm able to use a radio myself, you know. I modified mine to pick up transmissions from the police and the SDF. From what I'm hearing, this isn't that simple. After all, Hinamizawa is a pretty isolated village all by itself here in the mountain range. They don't have a clue how this virus managed to transmit itself here from overseas. So far, none of the infected people in the government has discovered any history of traveling out of the country, so now they're investigating the travel history of everyone in the village, wondering if there might be another carrier.
So you're saying that someone got infected while in a different country and brought this back to our village?
Yeah, apparently there's some leeway in its incubation period. They can't rule out the chance that whoever brought it here is still incubating the disease. Also, there's no guarantee that the person ever traveled abroad at all. There's still a chance they got infected when they came into contact with a carrier from outside the village. By my guess, the quarantine zones won't be limited to just Hinamizawa. Worst case is the quarantine could extend to the prefecture or even to the whole part of the country. How can this be? Also, this is just between us, but there's talk that this one might be different from the African killer virus they mentioned on TV. What do you mean? I'm not sure either, but some of the chatter I'm picking up on the radio suggests that they suspect this whole virus crisis might be caused by an endemic disease native to Hinamizawa. You mean some killer virus is hiding in Hinamizawa for years? I'm not sure either. The only thing I do know is that there's an old legend still passed on around here that talks about something impure rising from the swamp and attacking the village. Makes you wonder whether something's risen up out of here again.
But Mii-chan, if that's true, then we can rest easy. I mean, the village wasn't wiped out all those years ago, right? Which means it's far less lethal than the virus they're talking about on TV that wipes out whole villages.
According to the myths of the old Oniyafuchi, anyone possessed by the impurity from the swamp became a demon. In the end, the villagers couldn't do anything, and they were at their wits' end until Oyashiro descended before them. Which means the village couldn't escape that disaster until a miracle occurred. Exactly. If not for that miracle, the village would have been wiped out. It seemed there are a lot more older villagers who believe this whole virus was a commotion of Oyashiro's curse. I could see them here and there going through rosaries and offering prayers up as they begged for forgiveness. That commotion would settle down if Rika, the reincarnation of Oyashiro, would just deny it's a curse. My granny's trying to explain that to the people from the SDF right now. Well, I doubt outsiders can understand what Rika means to this village. Yeah, the superstitious aside, it'd be a relief to see Rika and Sadako myself. That's right. Hinamizawa has a unique religion that supports a guardian deity known as Oyashiro. Central to that faith was the legend of Oyashiro's curse, so there were a lot of villagers conflating that curse with the current commotion. That's why everyone wanted to see Furude Rika, who was considered to be Oyashiro's reincarnation, alive and healthy, and hear her proclaim that this commotion had nothing to do with Oyashiro. It was the first emergency situation of this matter that the village had faced. No one had yet to recover from the shock to their heart. They wanted something to cling to. But even the village was ruled by superstition. It was still a part of the 20th century of Japan. So of course they wanted to respond calmly without mulling about in confusion. So many had decided for themselves that as long as they saw Furude Rika safe and sound, they would regain their composure. That also meant that if they couldn't see Furude Rika, then they would remain lost in their superstitions. If you ever hear some clicking sounds, that's the clicking of my wrist. I have clicky bones. I've always had them since I was a kid. July 6, Wednesday, day 10. Without school, I had completely lost my sense for what day it was. So the television programming was all that barely maintained my sense of daily life. For the first few days, the television only covered what they dubbed the Hinamizawa virus outbreak and the resulting quarantine. Once the 10th day had passed, the news had only mentioned it when something special was happening. As far as the public was concerned, some minister or another had cut his golf game short when the Hinamizawa crisis happened or something. So they quibbled over that, which led to queries into the secretary's salary or something. All completely pointless stuff. So as long as it wasn't brought up in the news, they probably deluded themselves into believing the virus crisis was resolved. I couldn't help but realize how coldly society gorged itself on misfortune of others. By this point, most villagers had gotten over their hesitation to go outside, at least to collect supplies and such. Lately, Mion's been wondering if it's not just our village being quarantined, but Okinomiya as well. We didn't have to go into town to shop, and some had started joking that it was much easier with water and food all being delivered for free. I'd forced a smile at that, but I couldn't shake the sense of entrapment brought on by the quarantine lasting 10 days already. The same went for Mion. She sounded lighthearted and carefree on the surface, but Mion couldn't shake the anxiety from her expression either. With the way things were, staying at home wasn't helping. If I was at least talking to someone, I could distract myself. I even started volunteering to help carry the plastic tanks of drinking water, excited at the chance to see my friends at the water supply. Of course, it wasn't like it was fun, though. When we saw each other, we only shared our anxieties, but even so, it was still far better than puddling under a blanket all by myself. Kei-chan, you look well! Got any strange thoughts?
Mi-chan, that's not funny.
Mion! And Rena, too! Thank goodness! The phones are still out as usual. So seeing you here is a relief. Yeah, lately I've been wishing they reopened... Wait. Oops.
Yeah, lately I've been wishing they reopened the school.
If the school were to reopen, then we could all think back on our peaceful everyday lives and do our best to pretend everything was fine. But I guess not. If I recall, Shay lives in Okinomiya, so they can't reopen the school if she can't get there because of the quarantine. Well, it's not so bad since school closed over this unprecedented disaster. We should take the chance to enjoy our free life like this. Mion's personality was truly valuable in times like this. She could get in the conversation going easily and make it as light as our usual everyday chatter. But in the end, she brought the conversation back to our worries of our current situation. Oh, right, Rena, Kei-chan. Don't get upset, but listen. This is just between us, okay? Mion drew us both behind cover and lowered her voice to a whisper.
What? What is it, Mi-chan?
Have you learned something new? The SDF gave us some good enough explanation when the quarantine first started, but lately they haven't made any more announcements about the ongoing situation. That means we were left with nothing but rumors and word of mouth. But since we're further isolated based on how we were divided under the council, the villagers had limited interaction with each other, and even those rumors weren't able to get around well enough. Fortunately enough, our village had a decent amount of amateur radio fans, so they were just using their radios to contact each other. Mion was one of those people using her radio to check how the other quarantine areas were doing, trying to get a grasp of the full state of Hinamizawa. Well, our phone lines still haven't recovered, so the radios are really crucial in times like this. So did you learn anything? Yes, well, it sounds like it's true that Rika has been taken into custody and no one knows what's going on with her. She took a brief pause after that. The Sotozaki family had been strongly requesting that Furude Rika go around the village so they could wipe away any fears of Oyashiro's curse, but those demands kept getting ignored. The SDF didn't want to carry her traversing the village and spreading the infection, so they kept each council area strictly isolated, and so none of the villagers could find out how Furude Rika was doing, which only stirred their anxieties up even more. If anything were to happen to her, the reincarnation of Oyashiro, and that would only mean one thing: the end of the village as passed down the legend. That fear had finally reached its logical conclusion. If they couldn't get information on Furude Rika, that something happened to her, the SDF was trying to cover it up, and that fear made its way into the rumor. Everyone denied those rumors, of course, but the only way to get rid of them was for the villagers to see Furude Rika safe and sound. That wasn't happening, though, so the villagers' collective anxiety was only growing stronger.
What do you mean no one knows how Rika's doing? Are you saying Rika got hit by the virus?
Shh! You're being too loud! I don't know if it was a virus, but either way, she was taken into custody by the disease control squad. Blech. I don't know if it was a virus, but either way, she was taken into custody by the disease control squad, and she hasn't been seen since. No one knows if she's safe. Several different people witnessed to her being taken away, so that's certain at least. When did that happen? The day of the quarantine.
And Sadako? She lives with Rika, so, well...
If Rika fell victim to the virus, then as her housemate, Sadako would have... I don't have any info on that. Figures. The elders of the village may care about Rika, but they've never wanted anything to do with Sadako.
Do you think Sadako was taken into custody too?
Doesn't sound like it, though I think it's just basic disease control to suspect infection in anyone living with an infected person. From what I've been hearing on the radio, only Rika was taken in. Sadako wasn't, apparently. Also, this part sounds kind of strange, but... Strange. Yeah. So you know how Sadako's parents were in favor of the dam being built, right? And how afterwards they died in the accident due to Oyashiro's curse? You're talking about the rumors that Sadako and the Hojo family are cursed and hated by Oyashiro. Yeah. There's always been a horrible group of people that said living with a cursed person like Sadako would cause her to taint and pass the holy reincarnation to Rika. And how these people are starting to say that this is Oyashiro's curse and that Sadako's to blame.
What? That's stupid as hell! Most jerks will blame Sadako at a drop of a hat!
Of course it's nonsense, but people in the other areas are starting to say they might be able to quell Oyashiro's anger by binding up Sadako and sinking her into the swamp. They're talking like they believe it too.
No way! Are we savages now? I thought we were civilized! It's only been a week since our daily routines were broken! And we're already talking about drowning people in swamps?
Rena's indignation was justified, but thinking back on it, Hinamizawa was possessed by such strange beliefs long before this whole virus commotion. Hinamizawa had never shown any proof it was a civilized land. The people there simply acted that way, but once you tore away their facade, they quickly revealed themselves to be adherents to some truly bizarre delusions. Judging from your expression, Mion, you're not going to tell us this is some joke all along, right? Mion's silence and downcast stare affirmed it as true. Of course I told them they need to calm down over the radio, but they're not listening to me at all. Shit! If Rika's been taken into custody, that means Sadako is currently living that house storage hut all by herself. She's in danger if they try to pull anything, isn't she? True. There's only so much Sadako can do by herself. Wouldn't it be better to shelter her in our area? Wouldn't it? Rena's suggestion was a good one. If we left Sadako alone like this, and it'd be caught up in those wild fantasies, they might go after her. But whose home should we shelter her in? According to Mion, the rumors that Sadako was already infected with the virus are being spread as though they're true. Word of mouth that primitive means, Communication was all that Hinamizawa had. It was easy for rumors to work their way into such a communication. And because of the mass psychology, people convince themselves that those statements are true, embellishing them with even farther until they become established fact. At that point, the truth won't matter. Sadako will effectively become one of the infected. Once that happens, whichever home takes her will face the same treatment. It went without saying, but Mionto and the Sonozaki family were already on bad terms with Sadako and the Hojo family. It'd be extremely difficult for Mion's family to shelter Sadako. What about my family? My mother would probably understand, but considering the fact my dad is still obstinately refusing to expose himself to the outdoors, I couldn't imagine him taking Sadako in.
Yeah, I know it's impossible for your families. So if we do end up sheltering Sadako, I'll shelter her in my home. Don't worry. I won't let my father voice any objections.
I had no idea why, but Rena held control of her family's finances. So if she got serious, she could make her father give in. It made me feel sad I couldn't stick my chest out and say my family could too. I hated the idea that she just assumed it wasn't possible. But I couldn't do anything about that. It's not like that pride would matter in this situation. Alright, if we can make contact with Sadako, we'll tell her to head to Rena's home. I wish I could reach out to her myself, but from what you told us, Mion, it sounds like the area around Sadako's house is dangerous. That's because there's a lot of strong believers who live around here. But to be honest, Sadako is not the only problem. Depending on how it goes, both of you two could be in trouble too. Mion's eyes grew even sharper, looking back and forth between me and Rena. Even though she was worried about Sadako, the chill in her gaze was enough to shred the naive thought that at least we would be safe. I mentioned this the other day, right? The rumors that the virus might be indigenous to Hinamizawa? Those rumors are starting to gain a lot of traction. Some are even saying that every villager is probably infected for hundreds of years.
But that's just crazy! Even if that were true, then people would have been dying every day back when!
Well, the ones insisting on that argument have an interesting idea. They're saying that the virus remains stable and harmless so as long as you stay in the village. They go even further, arguing that the family who's lived in this village for many, many years are all born with an immunity that keeps them safe. Oh, it's just like when people were talking about, oh my god, well, Asians probably have immunity. Oh my god. Sorry to bring up 2020, but that really... Well, I'm Chinese, so... I kind of have a right to be angry about it. Oh, and if anybody comments or does anything wrong or racist during the stream or on my videos, blocked and deleted. Sorry, I curate my audience. I don't get it. So what? Are you telling me they're saying that people like Rena and I who moved here from outside are at risk because we don't have that immunity? That's exactly it. They're saying our harmony or whatever it is with the virus is collapsing because people are moving Hinamizawa and, that's making the virus go crazy in everyone. Nah.
You're not telling us you believe such an outrageous idea too, are you, Mi-chan?
Of course not! There's no way I fell for anything that sounds that crazy! But for some reason, everyone else believes it! I don't get it at all! Normally, no one would ever believe such stupid nonsense. These past few days, those weird ideas and rumors are being passed around like they're just common sense. I've been listening on the radio ever since the first day, but lately the villagers are believing weirder and weirder stuff. I don't know if it's some mental stress or trauma or whatever, but calling it that is optimistic at this point. Let's reread that part again. I don't know if it's mental stress or trauma or whatever, but calling it that is optimistic at this point. These lies and rumors are running rampant, but no one's doing anything to stop them. If anyone tries, they could be treated as one of the infected too. It's getting really awful around here. Something's not right with people, so watch yourselves. Rena and I were both left speechless by Mion's desperation. It was clearly a good thing that we weren't able to listen to what she's picked up over the radio. Thrust into these abnormal circumstances. Wait, thrust into these abnormal circumstances. Their frustration had reached its peak. That, along with the anxieties and fear founded on faith, were producing new rumors after one another. It was steadily approaching the point where someone would have to be sacrificed in order to clear those rumors away. Judging from Mion's expression, we were already approaching that critical moment. That was the moment I first realized it. There was clear hostility in the looks the villagers gave us as we talked to each other.
Apparently it wasn't just my imagination either.
Apparently it wasn't just my imagination either. Rena was quick to pick up on that too.
Keiichi, protect yourself, okay?
Yeah. I don't like being distrusted just because of stupid rumors. It's best not to feel the fire. You know, let me think. Do I remember, like when I first watched the anime, if this was, like, the thing? I think it's because, I don't think I got it at first, because, like, I just didn't get it, and then, like, you actually go through the quarantine in 2020, and then you're just like, well, shit. It starts to make sense. Yeah. Yeah, Rena, Kei-chan, you two should avoid going outside unless you have to. Also, make sure you don't go out alone. And seal your home up tight. If anyone says anything inconsiderate, don't provoke them, no matter how frustrating. Got it? The hostile looks I felt from time to time were too much to pretend like I just imagined them. The cursed customs of the village that had avoided contact with outsiders for centuries weren't about to be brushed away by a scant few years of civilization. Rena and I could only nod in acknowledgement of Mion's. Dang it. Rena and I could only nod in acknowledgement of Mion's warning, and the tense looks clear on our faces. Like, okay, they get into this, to like more of the Resident Evil Higurashi thing, but that stuff, when you look at it in hindsight, and God. Showa 58, Headquarters, General Affairs, Division, Section 1, E34, July 7th, 1983. Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Evacuation orders, emergency. The Director of the Disaster Relief is to evacuate disaster relief units immediately. Okay. During evacuation, units are to follow the directions of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Notes. 1. Orders. The disaster relief units will follow the direction of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases and evacuate to the designated zone outside the quarantine. 2. Reason. The routine blood test detected a positive reaction for type... What the heck is that symbol? Type N173 virus in 4 squad members. This proves that the disaster relief unit's current equipment is ineffective at preventing infection. Showa 58 HQ Headquarters, General Affairs Division, Section 1, E35, July 7, 1983. Commander of the 738th Equipment Test Company. Dispatch orders, emergency. The 738th Equipment Test Company is to deploy immediately with version 13 disease prevention equipment under the command of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Notes. 1. Orders. As of today, the 738th Equipment Test Company will be placed under the command of the Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. The test company shall follow the Director's orders and deploy on site immediately. 2. Mission. Peacekeeping in the quarantine zone. Remarks. 3. Remarks. Discharge of firearms will be authorized under enclosed conditions. July 6, 1983. Alphabet Project Board of Directors. Director of Disaster Relief, Hinamizawa Region. Regarding the N173 virus. This virus has been classified as Category C neuroparasitic virus. What follows is an explanation of its properties. Of all the viruses that infect the human nervous system, this one demonstrates extremely strong compatibility with mankind. Also, due to the difficulty in identifying its symptoms in its infected, its existence is not yet confirmed until the modern age. According to the unofficial investigation conducted by the UN in 1948, over 99% of the human species contains this parasitic virus within their brain. Furthermore, it's been pointed out that it's likely this virus has been with humanity since the beginning. As that all suggests, this virus is extremely well integrated into the human body. The host is unaware of this parasite. This makes the virus very similar to other microbes within the human body, such as Escherichia coli, which is commonly known of today. However, the problem with this virus is that we have identified the possibility of this virus interfering with the host's brain functions. What? What the hell? What? Okay, sorry about that. This virus makes its host amiable to other hosts of the same strain. This virus makes its host amiable to other hosts of the same strain. It directs its host to be antagonistic toward hosts of different strains. The UN investigation has discovered several hundred strains that could be classified under this virus. Another shocking fact was uncovered as well. The distribution map of these strains, oddly enough, matches up with the present-day national borders and religious distributions. Furthermore, it's suspected that each strain of this virus is deeply involved in shaping the foundation of its host behavior and personality. So the theory stands that the unique traits of this parasitic virus are responsible for several tendencies, generally attributed to race or nationality. In other words, this virus is theorized to be indirectly responsible for all patterns within society's personalities, the cultures of different ethnicities and nations. The first to uncover the existence of this virus was a German doctor within the Nazi administration. It is theorized that this discovery led to the administration massacre of particular peoples. The UN Secret Investigation Committee has identified the possibility that this virus is indirectly led humanity to commit its most heinous atrocities. They call for the extermination of this virus, that being held back by the fear that such an objective could trigger ethnic cleansing. As a result, all research on the virus was perpetually prohibited in 1955. They elected to discard the records of that research. This meant humanity would perpetually embrace this parasite and prohibit the further discovery of its existence as well. However, several countries continue to research the virus on their own in secret, since there has been no exchange of information between the state of the research and other nations unknown. Here in Japan, a research team was founded in secret by a group of medical schools in the late 1960s. Their research is the foundation for their current studies. America has caught wind that this virus is the cause of the most recent incident. They will be planning to steal our research. We must not respond to their attempts to claim that research disguised as offers of aid. Furthermore, amongst the strains of the virus, strain N173 is the rare variety which displays extremely dramatic symptoms. As I've already explained, traditionally this virus is extremely compatible with the human body and is totally unnoticeable, yet the N173 strain causes dramatic alterations to personality within several days of infection. The most significant change is the promotion of anxiety and aggression, yet it retains the unique aspects of this virus naturally guiding those changes in psychology to occur naturally. The infected residents of Hinamizawa region already tend to strongly exhibit those tendencies and have demonstrated the potential to cause certain catastrophes, mass riots, mass murder, within short periods of time. Direction of this matter should be immediately given over to the Alphabet Project. As such, it should be carefully investigated as one of our nation's assets. I am confident that research into this matter will contribute to our national interest. Furthermore, the suppression of riots caused by this matter can only be conducted by the Alphabet Project Board of Directors, which possesses extrajudicial authority. I hope that you will consider these factors before making your decision tomorrow. National Institute of Infectious Diseases, Head of Room 13, Iwashi. Wait, what did that say? Shit, I missed it. As the disturbing atmosphere toward the outsiders like the Maibara family grew stronger, it was another change that fanned the anxiety of those villagers. The SDF has been supporting the villagers' unstable lifestyles, as well as providing mental support, but they suddenly disappeared from the village. The elders who hated standing around long lines before the water supply trucks had already lined up early, but no matter how long they waited, the trucks weren't showing up. At first, we made the generous assumption that something had delayed them. But the fact that the SDFs for deliveries had always been punctual before only worked against them. Fanning anxiety is even higher. Once it's long past the scheduled delivery time, the morning line grew steadily longer, and the anger they felt at the wire trucks for not arriving grew into anxiety, and finally into fear. The situation rapidly grew worse, and finally people began whispering that the SDF had abandoned us. Anyone would be shocked after hearing that rumor. The actions of the SDF were the final dam maintained the village's sanity. With that dam suddenly removed, it was easy to feel as though the village had been cast out of Japan. However, there were a few villagers who weren't frightened by the SDF's disappearance. They had taken an optimistic view and assumed quarantine would be lifted. Those people even tried to leave the village, yet something strange occurred at the barricades sealing us off. Instead of the personnel clad in white raincoats that had been manning the barricades before, there were soldiers blocking the path, wearing much tougher-looking camouflage gear that was more like a spacesuit. They even had an armored car parked behind them too. Now, why did the villagers insist on calling them soldiers? Because the guns they carried looked that dangerous. At the very least, none of the SDF members performing relief efforts had carried guns. Not only were their soldiers carrying their own guns, but the armored car also had a heavy machine gun stationed at its top hatch. And they aimed its muzzle at the villagers without hesitation. After aiming, they issued a warning too. This is the JG. You're gonna see if we ever get to Kikonia and they lift the embargo, I'm gonna have a hard time reading all these letters. This is the JGSDF. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. Please return to your homes at once. Seeing and hearing that made them certain. Circumstances had changed. The commotion about this dangerous virus had progressed to the point where it was beyond the SDF's control. So they had banned providing aid to the village and were trying to seal it away. That gave way to anger at the nation who abandoned their relief efforts, and even greater fear at the idea that things had progressed that poorly. The villagers tried demanding an explanation of fear from the soldiers, but they fired live ammo without remorse, intending to intimidate, and announced that they would target their legs next if they did not leave immediately. The villagers then scattered like spiders and fled back to the village. Afterwards, their stories grew exaggerated, and people started saying some of them actually shot or wounded, even dead, causing even further turmoil. Actually, there's still a chance that part about the warning fire was all made up too, but there's no way to verify that anymore and no need to, because that story wasn't being proven false, so it had already become truth. On top of that, some kind of jamming wave was emitted somewhere, suddenly making the radios useless, leaving word of mouth as the only means of communication, which further increased turmoil even further. That day, the first gunshot rang out in the village. We couldn't know for sure, but the soldiers tracking us had fired on in the village, or like the rumors suggested, or some villager had fired their hunting rifle. But as that gunshot roared through the village, the whole population fell away from the law and order of civilized Japan. The town council used their network to reach out and explain there was a mistake in the organization of relief efforts on the SDF's side, and that due to the mistake it'd be some time before the relief efforts resumed. They also asked the villagers to help one another until that time. Had that message been sent out before such great anxiety spread throughout the village, and they might have been able to improve things a little, but it was all too late. Even though the SDF had increased supplying in food and water, every house at least had some stored up. However, no one knew how long this delay of provisions would last. The noxious heated air permeating the village was steadily robbing people of their sanity. fearing that some insurgent might descend upon them in search of food. The shopping district had banded together and armed all the shops, formed their own neighborhood watch. Barricades taken from the dam site were lined up at the entrance to the shopping district. We're closed indefinitely. If you have no business here, you may not set foot within. If you still insist on entering, then please discuss it with us on a case-by-case basis. Read the sign that they had posted up where the residents of the shopping district took their turns standing watch with hunting rifles. There was also another small flyer beside it. Those living in Takasudo, please go away. That one was based on the rumors of the infected in Takasudo. However, as the rumors continued to grow, there would be more likely signs posted next to it prohibiting other regions as well. For a moment, we thought that we might be able to have more interaction now that the SDF was no longer quarantining us separately, but the youth groups in each town council quickly took that mantle of isolation. Everyone believed that their area had yet to become infected, and they could remain safe if they kept out people from the other areas. Hinamizawa was fundamentally a farming village, but there were several people who had made their living through hunting since long ago, so the number of hunting rifles wasn't exactly small. Because of that, those who owned one volunteered to serve as guards. The number of who volunteered directly translated into that town council's power. Either that, or it became their power to blur the line between fantasy and reality in order to realize their delusions of persecution. That day, it was July 7th, the day of Tanabata. When we turned the television on, it was displayed images of cute young children writing their wishes on boards, stretching out to hang them up on bamboo stalks. Yet here in Hinamizawa, our Tanabata involved posted signs rejecting the infected up on the violent-looking barricades, while many took up hunting rifles and glared at each other suspiciously. It was hard to believe this was still the same Japan. Alright, we're gonna end this tonight, making a short stream, because nothing exciting is going on right now. And whenever... It's not like in Umineko or other Higurashi stuff. So we're gonna do that. Yep. And thank you for showing up. Good night. I might play some more games later and stuff. So yeah. Bye.